Again, I'm going to pause every once in a while for you to fill this in. So JB is calculating the cost for a mortgage he's considering. The terms are initial amount borrowed, 275, 25-year amortization, semi-monthly payments, interest compounded semi-annually. It doesn't say anything about down payment, which is unfortunate, but just go with it. Okay, if there's no down payment, you don't have to take it off. So here, NI, PV, PMT, PY, CY. Okay, so take a moment, fill this in. Okay, semi-monthly, semi-annual compounding periods, that's 2. Payments are semi-monthly. So, right, that's your PY. And so that would be 24. And this is a loan, right? So future value will be 0. Payments, determine the payment amount. And this would be 275 positive, correct? Because the bank is giving you that money to buy your house. Interest rate is 3.2. And it's a 25-year amortization, so 25 times 24. You get 600 here. If you solve this, you get 664.46. Okay, so that's your monthly payment. Yes, it's negative on your TVM, as it should, but you don't have to include that. Determine the balance of the mortgage 5 years into that mortgage. And again, it says balance, that's a dead giveaway, but if it says how much do you still owe in 5 years, it means the same thing. So this would be 5 times 24. So this would be balance after 120 payments. So this would be 235,951.44. How much interest in the first 5 years? You have to use this one. There's no way around it. So that's 1 to 120. And so you've paid 40,687 and 23 cents in interest in just the first 5 years. Okay. So balance owing, interest paid. If the house he plans on buying appreciates at 2.75% per year, calculate the equity. That should ring a bell. Accumulated after 5 years. You may use that really long formula. Equity is the price of the house. For us right now, it's 275. 1 plus 0.0275 to the power of 5 years minus balance owing after 5 years, which we already know is balance of 120. This ends up being, you got to be careful when you do this. Please add and then raise it to the power of 5. But if you do this correctly, that amounts to 314,950.17 minus the balance owing. We already know from B that it's 235,951.44. So we subtract what it's worth in 5 years and what we are expected to owe. And your equity there would be 78,998 and 66 cents. You should either have an example of how to do equity or at the very least have the formula, the equity formula on your study sheet. I would make a little note on my study sheet right now. Equity goes here, so you don't forget the formula. If it said depreciates, you would have to go minus, okay? Then it goes, the value of the house actually goes down. So read carefully. Calculate the total interest paid over the life of the mortgage. You get to choose here. Do you want to use the formula or do you want to use this? I like using the sum of interest. It's from the very first to the very last payment. And if you do that, you get 123,678 and 98 cents. just a couple of, I know I highlighted that in your notes, but how could you save on the interest paid? Like what could you do to pay less interest? Increase your down payment, right? Increase down payment. You could increase payment frequency. What does that mean? You pay it more often. So what's more frequent than semi-monthly? I would say bi-weekly, because you do 26 in a year. What's more frequent than bi-weekly? Weekly. That's 52, and so forth. Another thing you can do is shorten amortization. Pay it off faster. Choose a shorter term. So instead of a 25-year mortgage, you go for a 20-year mortgage, right? So these are things that you could come across. It could be a multiple choice question. You know, I could just flat out ask you, the province could ask you, and you could say here on the side to save interest. That's money in your pocket if you save interest, okay? You could say, I want to make a larger payment every time. Yeah.
The answer is 78,998.73 cents.
You have the exact same values than me here?
Yeah.
Okay. I will investigate. This is correct. And this is correct. Okay. So you might be onto something there. This is 73 cents. What's going on? What's going on? Thank you. My suspicion is that I copied pasted these answers with all their decimals, and that's not, this is okay to do it with money, to round to 2, round to 2. It's not okay to do that when you do design and measurement. Go figure. But this is 73, right? Sorry, fixed, thank you. Are we okay with this one? 98? Okay, a backside. Is there a backside? Yeah, there's a backside. Unfortunately, Kiara's investing for the future. With the intent to start a small business. She has a goal of $100,000 in 10 years to start her business. Based on the monthly deposits into the investment and the interest rate of 3.5% compounded monthly, how much will she have to deposit each month to reach her goal? Can I ask you to take a moment and fill this in, if you haven't done so already? You should be able to fill in everything but one. Okay? So go for it. Okay. Here we go. Compounded monthly, got it. How much will she have to deposit each month? There's an indication that payment is a monthly occurrence. We want to know, we do know the goal. So in the future, we're expecting to get $100,000. That is positive. Why? Because you're expecting to get that from the bank in the future. Okay? This is what we're going to find out. We start with 0 because we're not told we're starting with a certain amount. This is 3.5, and this is 10 times 12, which is 120. Okay, there we go. If you have that and you solve, you get 697 and 19 cents. And that should be negative, right? Because you're paying that. So that's how much you have to put in on a regular basis. Based on the calculations in A, how much interest has Kiara earned in 10 years? So you can use the formula or you can use sum of interest. I'm just going to take it from the first to the very last, and that would be 16,336.96. That is the interest earned. That should be positive because the bank is paying you that interest. But again, if you do all of this right, the sign doesn't really matter here. What is the balance of Kiara's investment after 5 years? So you have to do balance, right? 5 years times whatever PY is. That's balance after 60 months in a sense. And you are expected to have 45,642 and 45 cents. Why is it not half of the goal since it's half of the time? Like 5 years in, that's half of the 10-year goal. You don't have $50,000. Why is that? This is due to the compounding effect. Which is exponential. Most of the growth happens towards the end. And so if you want to have a graph, an exponential curve goes like this, and then all of a sudden it reaches that point where it just shoots up rapidly. So it might take you a little while at first to accumulate a certain amount, but then it reaches a point where it just goes really fast, right? So the same time frame, right? This is 5 years, this is 5 years, but most of the growth happens on like the second, like towards the end, the second half of your investment. Linear, if simple interest, this is simple, it's the same growth. So halfway through, you're expecting to have exactly half of your goal, and then so forth, okay? So this is compound. Using the rule of 72, estimate how long it would take for Kiara's investment to grow to $800,000. With the rule of 72, you must use it, right? So 72 divided by, what's the interest rate? 3.5. That's 20.57 years. Keep it in as 2 decimals, okay? The province tends to make it so that it's a whole number, but not always. Once you have your doubling time, that's worth a mark. Then you have to set up a table, time and money. So you have to see it this way. It's interesting here, but in 10 years, how much money are you going to have? Usually we start with 0, right? But 10 years have gone by. How much money do we have? 100,000, right? Right? In 10 years. You add 20.57, so it'll be 30.57. You'll have double this. Right? So basically what I did is I added the doubling time. You do it again because double 400,000, double 200,000 is 400,000. You add 20.57 to this, it gives you 51.14 years. You double your money one more time, guess what? That's going to take you another 20.57 years. So that gets you to 71.71. it will take 71.71 years to accumulate 800,000. It doesn't ask for age. If it asks for her age, how old will she be? Well, it depends on when she started. If she started at 20, she'd be 91.71. You would round it to 92 years old. Okay. So you've got time, money, but no energy. That's how it is with when you get to that age, right? Okay, I'm gonna stop here.